Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes continue to get more expensive and more expensive. And honestly, it's very surprising how expensive some of these actually are, considering some of these are main sets, which means they have booster boxes. And even in the past, obviously the market has changed, things have changed. But I used to say that booster boxes were always the best product for main sets and then Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes. But now looking at the data we have here for Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes, specialty sets, and main sets, it's very possible that even for main sets, they could be the best investment. Because with specialty sets, I've always said this, Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes are the best product because there's no booster box. So therefore, Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes are the best ones. But when you look at some of these main set PC ETBs, they're really expensive, and you do all the math and the growth rates for all these, it's pretty insane. Like the gains you can see on these versus booster boxes. Now, these are relatively new products, so where will these be 5-10 years down the road? Who really knows? But at least in the short term, it actually seems like these perform a lot better than booster boxes just because they have that scarcity, especially now. When we see sets now get released, we don't really see restocks of those PC ETBs. With Prismatic Evolutions, I feel like that's where it sort of started, where they didn't restock on the release day. People were waiting for it. It never came, and the prices have then gone up. So I just want to do an overview of all the Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes, excluding some of the duplicates, because some of these sets have two different Pokemons featured on the Elite Trainer boxes. Not going to show both because I feel like it's kind of redundant. Cross-check, they're kind of both the same. It's whatever. I just think it'd be useless to show two of the same sets. But I want to show you guys the price for some of these because it's very surprising. The first one here is just Scarlet and Violet base. There's also, I think, the Koraidon. It's around the same price, but these are $200, and this is a Scarlet and Violet base Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box. Obviously, these don't have as much liquidity because they're not as sought after, but still, it's selling for around $200. So, pretty crazy to see with Scarlet and Violet base, but I mean, this set has just gone up in general, but still, for this to be a $200 PC ETB, it's pretty crazy because it's just a base set. Now we go over to some of the very expensive main set PC ETBs. And the reason why, these are so expensive is because there are grading plays with the promos, and that's really driving the prices up for these PC ETBs. I remember these were so available for so long. I never bought any because, back then the market was so different. And now they're $300 for a just main set PC ETB. Booster boxes are not even this expensive, and booster boxes have 36 packs. This has 11 packs, so you're getting more than 3 times the amount of booster packs in a booster box, yet this is more expensive. Obviously, it's a collector's item, but there's also that chance of a grading play, so this is $300, which is pretty ridiculous for a main set. And these ones, it's the same with a lot of these earlier ones. They don't sell as much, but they still sell, and I'm pretty sure if you go on eBay they're probably selling as well, but these are selling for around $300. Next year, another one that has a grading play. This one is a little bit more expensive than the Paldea Evolved PC ETB. This one's over $300 now because the featured promo is a Charmander, so it being a very popular starter. It sells kind of a little bit more than the other ones, but still you can see some gaps. But same thing, if you go on eBay they probably sell, but you can't see some of these have sold for almost like 400 and some around $400, which is crazy. But yeah, it does have that promo. I think in a PSA 10 I believe it's almost $1,000, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly here. But yeah, these are pretty expensive. Same thing for a main set, and these ones I feel like they were available for a while, but I think they sold out kind of quick for at least at the time because it just had Charmander on it. But yeah, these are pretty expensive. Next here is Paradox Rift. Now these ones like Paradox and Temporal, they're not very expensive. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's just the featured Pokemon, but this one you can see here, the Roaring Moon. It's $155. I mean, still that's not cheap, but compared to everything else, it's not that expensive. And sort of the same thing, Temporal Forces. I mean, it's around $200, so I guess it is kind of expensive. But this is around $200. These main sets are still pretty expensive, especially some of these ones that aren't as sought after. Now we go to Twilight Masquerade. I actually feel like, I know the Pokemon featured is not very popular, but I do feel like out of all these PCTBs, Twilight Masquerade ones are definitely um, undervalued compared to everything else. Now, like I said, the promo, it's not really that sought after, and that's a big driving factor for these. But I feel like Twilight Masquerade, since it is a good set, just the collectability of it, having the PCETV, I feel like, at its current price, if you go like a year down the road, I feel like these are probably going to be above 200 bucks. So I actually think out of all these, this is a pretty decent pickup, because Twilight Masquerade, especially now the booster boxes are over 200 bucks. I feel like this being around 130, maybe you can go on eBay, find them for a little bit cheaper. I feel like this would actually be a pretty decent pickup as it is. These did get, I guess kind of randomly restocked on Pokemon Center. I made a video about it a while ago. And they were available for like a day and they sold out. But yeah, these I feel like are a decent pickup. Next here, Stellar Crown. Now this is a sort of surprising one because this is a pretty new Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box because it's the 7th main set. But these are 150 bucks, and I showed you guys in the past some other ones that were around 150, like Paradox Rift, and this is just as expensive. And the promo for this, I believe, is a Noctowl, so it's not crazy, popular Pokemon. I don't know if the artist has anything to do with it. I don't know who drew the artwork because that sometimes takes a play into the price of the promos. But yeah, this is pretty expensive. Stellar Crown, very surprising. That's 150 bucks. I would think that the Twilight Masquerade one would be more expensive, but it's not. Stellar Crown is 150. Now, Surging Sparks is at 200 bucks now. These were available for a very long time on pre-orders. I believe, were they available on the release date? I don't know. I don't really recall, but I just remember when prices of, or when I believe the booster boxes, did they sell it? I think the booster boxes sold out before PCTVs on pre-order. I believe, maybe I'm remembering not correctly, but these were available. I just remember for so long, I didn't pick any up because I spent so much on booster boxes. Like, because I was able to find a lot of booster boxes for a good amount under MSRP. So I never ended up buying any of these. And obviously I wish I did, because buying them at, 65 bucks? And now it's at 200? The return is really good on that. So I wish I would have bought some of these, but at the time I didn't really know. I was, honestly sort of disappointed because the promo was a Magneton. I know it's drawn by a popular artist, but I was sort of disappointed that it wasn't a Pikachu. So I'm like, you know what? I have all these booster boxes. I'll just, refrain from buying these. But obviously, it wasn't a smart decision because they're now $200. And yeah, I remember these were $120 not so long ago. I think, yeah, around 3 months ago. You can see here, it wasn't that expensive, but now it's 200 bucks. So going on to the specialty sets. It looks like 151 PC ETBs are about to break 500 bucks. Here. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I guess, we can see the supply here that it hits 500 after 1, 2, 3, 4, basically around 5 sales, which could happen in a few days. These will hit 500 bucks, which would be, obviously a, I guess record breaking thing because this is the most expensive PCTV so far. And yeah, this will be the first one to hit half a grand for a PCETB. And these, I'm pretty sure were 65. I think these were also $65, maybe 60. I'm not sure, but the growth rate on that, this being less than 2 years old, it's ridiculous how much the gains are for these. So this just shows how, I guess, far and how high these PC ETBs can go, which is why I've talked about Prismatic evolutions when the prices dropped on release. Why I believe they were still a good pickup even at that price. But next here we have Shrouded Fable. So Shrouded Fable, these ones were available for the longest time. I remember talking about these forever. I'm like, you know what? I won't buy it, but if you want to, you probably should, because they were going to sell it pretty soon because they were the only ones available, and they eventually did. These are $90, which if you think about the long term and comparing all these other PC TVs, this is a good pickup because they're probably not going to get restocked back on Pokemon Center. So if you think about long term, like just a few years, these will probably do decent, but especially it's a specialty set. So that could be a possible buy if you somehow didn't buy any when they were available because they were on there forever. So yeah, this being 90 bucks, it's pretty underpriced in my opinion compared to everything. So it could be a play, but for me, you won't see me buying Shrouded Fable anything. But hey, if you want some PC ETBs, this is a pretty cheap one comparatively, and it's one that I feel like is probably a decent pickup for, compared to everything else. So next here, we have Prismatic Evolutions. I mentioned, everybody was waiting for that restock to happen on the release day. Never happened. Still hasn't happened. Who knows if it'll ever happen, right? These right now are around 350. And I remember when this dropped to low 200s on release day, I said, you know what? You're probably not to catch the restock, even if they do restock it. So, looking at the price, even though at release, it was still low 200, which is triple to quadruple MSRP. If you look at 151, it was such an obvious buy, in my opinion, to buy it if you weren't able to get any on pre-order from Pokemon Center. But some people disagreed. Some people said, yeah, I'm going to catch the restock. It's going to restock. I mean, if you look at the price now, I can only imagine it's going to keep going up, and especially as Prismatic Evolution, just in general, because right now we're sort of at a stagnation point with Prismatic. I suspect these will go up, and I really think in the amount of time 151 has grown, I feel like Prismatic is going to beat 151 because it's already pretty expensive. I mean, 151 was 300 something bucks just at the end of last year. I think that's when it hit around 300, and these are like what, 4 months old, or not even 4 months old. I'm talking about like a month, a little bit over a month old, and they're already at 350. So I think in a year from now, these will be, I don't even know how expensive. It'd be hard to gauge by it being already this expensive right now. But even at 350, I wouldn't say it's a good pickup, because for it to double, obviously you'd have to get a 700, and 151 is barely at 500. But if you're planning on holding for like at least like 2 years, I would say this is not a bad pickup, because in the next year, I don't know, it honestly could probably double, like just looking at 151, depending on how that goes. But even just for your collection, I would honestly, because I don't know if they're going to restock it. I mean, you can take that chance, but I mean, we're over a month out from, or a month after the release, and it still hasn't come. So it's possible it may never come. So even at this price, I set it at 200, like it was a very low 200s. That was a good buy. At this price, looking at 151, I would say it's not a bad buy. I know I sound ridiculous saying that, but I believe it. I mean, look at 151, look at this. In a few years, where do you think this is going to be at? So I think even at this price, even though it's, how much above MSRP, like 4 to 5 times above MSRP, looking at 151, I think this is going to be a very expensive PC ETB, and therefore I think this is still actually not a bad buy. Now the last one here is Journey Together. Now there's actually no listings for this PC ETB because everyone bought them all, but you can see these were selling for the mid 350s. We even had a sale of 16 of these from somebody who decided to spend, I don't even know how much money that is, but I think that's over $5,000. So yeah, on these PC ETBs at 350, this is a really hard buy. I mean, if Prismatic was able to drop from 400 to 220 for a specialty set, Journey Together, I do heavily believe that these will drop significantly from 350. I think if Prismatic can do it, I think even with this market, this is a main set. I believe they could honestly drop to the 200s as well, even maybe lower than that. So I would say it's not smart buying these, because every single set so far, even in this whole hype thing, has gotten pretty significant drops on release in prices, and therefore Journey Together PCTVs I would not buy on pre-order. I would wait, because these will drop. I can almost guarantee it, because we saw with Prismatic, and that's especially one, and this I believe it's going to be the same thing. So just want to do an overview of the PC ETBs and how the prices are right now. A lot of them are expensive. There are a couple ones that I do think are good pickups, but everything else is pretty expensive. But it just goes to show how good of a product this really is. So in the future, when this market cools down and maybe you are able to pick up PC ETBs, that could be a really good option to go with if you can't buy a booster box, or if you just want another product to invest into. It seems like these are pretty good, but still, we don't have like long-term history of these, but at least so far, every single PC ETB seems to be performing extremely well. So that's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.